Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Backpack Trader Training Room for Thursday, July the 12th. Please do say hello in the chat and hit the like button if you feel like you're getting value from these sessions. All right, let's jump in and see where we are this morning. On crude oil, we picked up the short. This long was at our 19 seconds after our start time, but it was too quick to catch. Set up at 19 seconds after, and the next bar was just 5 seconds later, closed just in 5 seconds. So that was untradeable. So then we have the short setting up at 9:01:46. It just meandered about and finally gave us a full stop out of, see if I can get over it. There we are. 27 ticks, so that's down 54. And now we have a new short at 69.04. And I would push that down to 69.02 with the 50 sitting right where it is. And it did push through that. So we are short there. We're coming up on our market open, so the YM long at 421 would be a get in sync at the moment. And my pound Aussie has hit its All right, so the YM went down before our start time, so no trade there. Still short on crude. Pound Aussie has hit its money management from my chart. I have a trade at 88.33 that was a get in sync and now hitting target 2. Or I'm sorry, target 3. And our stop is at 88.39, or my stop it would be at 88.39. Good morning, Ivan, Miles, Armando, Roger. And the Russell with a short. Watching that and hitting money management. And the YM with a short at 349. And the Russell stopping out for a little partial, just barely missed our target. Missed target by 2 ticks. Wow, and the crude just bouncing up. That reversal was too fast to catch and would have taken a full stop on the second trade. So that would be the end of the trade plan. For crude, 2 losses. So we can pick up this long as a get in sync, but we wouldn't be taking the trade because of 2 full losses. Is that the standard trade plan at present? Well, I will go ahead and track that trade. And the Russell with the long now. And the pound Aussie going up through target 4 at 88.60 on my chart. That leaves just the trailer still at 88.39. And crude stopping and reversing to another short. So that would be the end of the third trade. And the Russell reversing to short. And a back and forth action this morning. YM took a second full stop on the short, bouncing off the 200. Actually, no, that's the first trade for the YM. And stop to 88.43. On the pound Aussie on my chart. Trade today. And Kevin is having technical difficulties, so no session this morning on trade today. He just posted that in the Trade a Day forum, or Trade a Day on Discord. And I will be right back, folks. A long nail on the YM. From 383. That's all that's all he said was due to technical difficulties. No session this morning. And I will be right back. All right, back again. And the YM just missing money management, still long. And challenging the stop at 357 now. The Russell stopping out on the short. And now getting a second short that's hit money management. Back and forth action this morning with no follow through. And that looks like we just hit another full stop on the YM. Yep. Just touched our stop at 357. All right, let's see what. I would volunteer, but it's a little difficult for me to fill in when I'm running the room. And I don't have access to the TradeStation charts. So that's two full stops on the YM. And the Russell is moving down toward target 2. In fact, it may have just hit it. 29.80. No, that's not. That's unleaded. Give me the Russell data, please. Screen being fuzzy is a function of bandwidth. I've had that problem when Troy is projecting at times when my bandwidth gets low. But we did get target 2 on the Russell, and I suspect we're going to be real close to POQ with the partial 2 stop and reverses and a solid target 2 with at least a target 1 trail. Trailer now at 42.1. Trailer still at 88.43 on my pound Aussie trade. And let's see what unleaded did. It looked like early that it had troubles as well. That was early. Okay, there's 2 seconds after our start time and going to stop without getting back to money management or back to our entry. So our first trade is this long at 9:34.56. That was just all right. Getting in sync, then stopping and reversing to short. For a break even at 28.43. And then we go long again at 28.44. And that's a full stop. So we have a stop and reverse, a break even, and a full stop on the first 3 trades. And that's where we are. Oh, no, I'm sorry. I didn't go back far enough. I was only at 9:30. Our first trade at 9 o'clock. Okay, yeah, this is what I was remembering seeing. So 19 seconds, that's definitely one you be in. Full stop. Ultimately, a stop and reverse on the long. Didn't ever get to money management. So long stops and reverses back to short. And that meanders about and stops and reverses back into a long. So that's trade number 4 that's a full stop. Trade number 5 is another long that stops and reverses into a short for trade 6. And that stops out at break even. So a nasty session on unleaded this morning. That was what I was just looking at. So crude and unleaded having really a tough time this morning. 88.44 for our I wouldn't call me an expert, but I've been using it now for about 5 years. What did you need, Craig? I'm not actually testing on the TA. We're basically, Troy and I are just kind of just watching the Russell, because it's okay. That ended up trailing all the way down to target 4, but since especially since COVID came in and volatility really spiked, uh, the Russell, we really don't know what chart to trade on it, because it's, especially right at the open, it's extremely fast, even on this 1.5 point range bar, or 1.5 point momentum bar, which is the 15 tick range. And there are days when it's just nasty, and there are days when it does well. I would say that's a POQ today, but it's just not consistent, not the consistent winner that it was dating back to before it was came back from ice to the CME, and then was changed to 5 ticks, and then the contract was changed to $5 a tick from $10 a tick. Now, it's not just today, but it's been very fast at the market open in the data, and it's just oftentimes the first trade, if not the first 2 or 3 trades, are just too fast to catch, even on this chart, as large a bar as the 15 tick. Our original trade plan on the Russell was the 8 tick momentum bar, or 80 cent. But I really haven't tried to do any testing with the TA on it of late. And stopping out at 88.47 on the pound Aussie, so that will end the session today on the pound Aussie. So unleaded has had its 6 trades. The Russell should be positive. 8 tick crude mini session was 2 full losses, and then couple of more stop and reverses and a full loss. So back to a short, but that's taking heat. So just time to stay out, and that's actually, we're into our 10 a.m. session on the Russell, or on unleaded. And so that short at 68.99 is valid. It's a valid get in sync. So you can put your order in and see if it comes down and hits, or nope, there it goes to the stop. So the order comes off and we're looking for a new setup. And the only thing I haven't looked at the moment is soybeans. Yes, I'm using Spotlight, Craig. Given that Spotlight is pickier on trades than Counterpunch, I suspect Counterpunch has been probably having an even worse time with it. On the Russell. Now let's see what our $9:30 start on. Okay, there was our opening bar. Actually, 2 or 3 of them. Now there's an opening bar. That's an opening bar. One second, 3 seconds, 7 seconds, possibly. But then we get in sync here. We definitely get in sync over here at 29 seconds. And that was a get in sync trade. There's target 1. Pretty large trade there. Well, unfortunately, that did stop out. But not before we got a stop and reverse at, call it 34.25. So our money management is 32.75, and our target is, for all 3 target positions, is 32.25, which, because we didn't hit money management on this spike with our adjustment, we actually did come down and hit that. And trailing to $39.38, so it'll be at $39.50 or $35.50, 36. No, wait a minute. All right, our $30.75 will be $31.25, and we didn't get there. So then we pick up this new trailer, still trailing down, and then we get it all the way down to $13.28. So that was should have been two and done. Free positions coming off for 8 ticks apiece. At 32.25, and we trail down to 28. So another 17 ticks. Now a good, nice strong showing there. 24 and 25. So 49 ticks. And our loss on stop and reverse was 37 to 34.25. So 2 3/4, 11, just 11. Now it was 11 times 4 positions, so 44. And we got 49. So POQ slightly positive, but that's the reason that we get out once we get to a proper money management level. And a new short on crude at 69.14. Definitely a tough day in the market. Any other questions this morning? We have the crude 10 a.m. session still going. And that is, and the YM looking for its third trade. A really messy price action this morning. I entered the trade right in this area when it came back down to the entry. It was a get in sync from like 6 o'clock this morning. Don asking what time did I enter the pound Aussie trade. That was a get in sync trade from, when did that set up? $622.04 was the setup, and I put my order in, along in here, right along in here, and when it came down through and triggered me in around 8:37 Eastern time, of course. Proceeded to bounce off the 50 and the 200 just as the 50 was crossing up over the 200, and went on to hit all four targets and trailer almost to target 2, one at 88.47, where target 2 was 88.48 on my chart. And a potential stop and reverse on 10 a.m. crude session at 69.31. And with it one tick below the session high at 32, that's a big adjustment, because the original setup was 27. So you've already made a 4-tick adjustment because of the key level to get to 31. But I still think I would go to 33 on that one. Session open. That's a session open, not session high. So yeah, let's leave it at 31 and see what happens. Although we have got a swing level at 32 back there. So still in the short, with the potential of a long trade. Crossover filter keeping us out of a long trade on the YM. My pound Aussie trade is a proximity trade off of the 50 EMA, and what I've seen, the differences in data is probably one reason why Kevin didn't have that to put it on the chart, although he may actually have had issues with his chart data, and that's why, because just at 938, which was just after I entered the trade on my chart, he put out the note about having technical difficulties, and he'd having to skip today's session. Yeah, Renko bars can be used. They're just a little bit more difficult to test. And it takes a little bit more work, because what happens is you get different base opening points day to day, unless you go back and anchor your data to a particular day. So the boundaries are different every day. It's just a whole lot more work to keep up with, and quite a bit more work to test accurately. A lot of times they'll look great, but getting them to work and getting your multipliers set up and your offsets and all of that, so that they abide by the boundaries on the Renko charts, can get to be difficult. And of course, you mean Renko, RENKO, not RANKO. What bar size do you use, Craig? And what strategy do you use on the Renko bars? Oh, okay. You're using, yeah. I had the HVWT, and I usually sit in on the HVWT room on Fridays when we haven't got the the backpack trader training room running. The HVWT has been doing very well, and that's not a Renko bar. The HVWT is a Heikinashi bar, which is very much a calculated bar that Will was able to program into the. It's very similar to a Renko, but it's not a true Renko bar either. But yes, the 8WT, which is the calculated bar for the HVWT, the eight tick brick size has done quite well. And that was a shift that was made when volatility spiked up at COVID, from when that strategy came out and up until COVID came about. That strategy was running typically on the four tick brick size. but it was doing very well then. And then they kicked it up the 8 tick just because of the volatility, and it was the 4 tick was just too fast to trade. Yeah, so there are some people also trading the 12 tick, the 12 tick brick size on that bar as well. But that's a whole that's very much a scalp and run type with a small, well, relative. It's a what 2.4 tick target, fixed target, and then trailing 5 bar stop. So it has to, you actually have to get some fairly significant moves, but the way he treats the way that Brian treats the uh, chop zone criteria, I think is does a very at least a fairly good job of keeping you out of a lot of really just back and forth noisy price action. It's another tool in the toolbox. But with what I'm doing with Backpack Trader, I just don't have the time and or screen space to trade it as well, especially right at the open. And when I'm doing the trade room 2 days a week, because it does take laser focus to stay with that. At least normally right at the open. You have to be very focused because you're basically looking to, there's not really a calculator associated with it. You're having to look at where your setups are, and many are just market in, others are setting in a stop. Yes. It's a 24 tick target. And I think it's a 40 initial stop is 44 ticks. So you're talking a $400 trade. So at 2%, you're talking about starting with a minimum of a $20,000 account, unless you're trading on the actually about almost a $25,000 account, unless you trade unless you're actually trading the M2K, which is the micro Russell. Which one are you charting the full RTY and trading the micro? Or are you actually charting and trading the micro? unadjusted. We triggered in, but we just triggered in 31. 33 would have kept us out. Yeah, definitely really difficult price action. There's a new long on the YM, but really slow price action this morning. This is the kind of price action that makes for bad days in the trade room, for sure. And so stopping and reversing back to short. From 69.12. And just a nasty morning for price action. Well, yeah, the line's finally going down, but there's no trade. The last trade we had was a long, but that's canceled. Thank you, Roger. Actually, we're going to my wife's class reunion, so I'm looking forward to that because I've never been to where she grew up. So it will be an interesting trip. And I'll be in the room Monday because we don't travel until Tuesday. Not going to try to do the room Tuesday morning because we have a Tuesday flight, so I'll be getting ready to leave. Yeah. Well, the ES is going up right now, but it's still below its session open. It went down significantly, or at least not significantly, but trended down off of the open fairly slowly, and now is trending back up to about where it started at market open this morning. All right, our stop and reverse short on crude. I'll take the third trade when it's stop and reverses. If it's two full losses, I won't take the third trade. Yeah, it's just very much sideways markets today, for the most part. The micro ES is still sitting below where it opened at this morning, or where it was at market open this morning. And the market open this morning was slightly less than the session open yesterday evening. Now we started with this short in the 10 o'clock session. Now I'll go ahead and pick this up. The normal trade plan is 2 losses. EOQ1 and positive, or 2 losses, or 3 trades total, whichever comes first. And there's money management. Yes, Ron, and that's a case where if you have the stop and reverse adjustment on, then it changes the trade sequence. Note that it hit the unadjusted stop and reverse up here to the long. So our normal procedure is if it hits the unadjusted entry, the stop and reverse remains valid and therefore would have triggered in here even though if you're running the stop and reverse adjust on the calculator, that it would have canceled on these two bars, but since it triggered in unadjusted, that's why it remained valid and would have been long, and therefore you're stopping and reversing into the short for the third trade. And it looks like we've got a target 1 and then a 1 tick stop out. So that ends the session. That's the third trade. That ends the 10 o'clock session. Have a good one, Ivan, and we will see you Monday. Have a good weekend. And that spike just taking us out at the break-even stop. But definitely not a good day for crude oil. But yes, if you did avoid the initial stop and reverse up here, then you actually hit this target 1 for a 1 and done. And let's see, yeah, you'd still have gotten knocked out of that one. Yeah, you'd have had the same stop at 69.13. But you would have been 1 and done using the stop and reverse adjust with the calculator this morning. Ron, and that's the difference in changing the trade sequence, because you would never have seen those shorts because you would have remained short off the initial, and then the stop and reverse would have canceled even though it had hit its unadjusted entry. Thank you, Craig. I'm glad you find the information helpful. That's the reason that I'm here. It's not because we're looking to necessarily have great trading days every day. This is a teaching room. But Ron, and recognize that with that in the calc, it can significantly change the trade sequence. Today, that was to your benefit. Sometimes it's to your detriment because you'll miss trades that would have been winners. Okay, yeah, as long as that's what you tested, that's fine. All right, unless there are other questions, then I am going to call that a morning. Since either way you played it, that was an end of the session. It was either the third trade or a POQ1. Getting a target one and trail. Any other questions? Okay, looks like we're down to 7 of us. Thank you very much, Craig. I will be coming back in a week from Monday, so I should be back in the room a week from Tuesday. There's a very good chance I'll be in the room, but since I'll be in a hotel room with my wife, and she likes to sleep in, I'm not going to try to interrupt her and run the room in the mornings. She typically is a night owl. She doesn't go to sleep until late, and then sleeps late. So I work around that when we're traveling. If we can get a suite where I've got a separate room that would be able to talk in without disturbing her, then I'll typically run the room even when I'm traveling. But that's not going to be the case on this trip. All right, I don't see any new questions, so everybody have a wonderful weekend. Good trading tomorrow. And remember, we are getting probably middle Wednesday or Thursday of next week. By Wednesday of next week, possibly Thursday, we're going to be rolling over our energy futures to October. So don't forget to keep an eye on the volume next week. Have a good weekend, and we'll see everybody on Monday.